So let's talk about power. It's a funny thing, isn't it? Some people want it so they can get a better parking spot. Others want it to, change the entire world. Today we're looking at three guys who definitely fall into the second category. Adolf Hitler, Vladimir Putin, Donald Trump. Now before you jump down my throat, let's be clear. This isn't about saying they're all the same. That would be like saying all spicy food is the same. A jalapeno is not a ghost pepper. They burn in very different ways. We are going to look at the unique leadership styles of these three very different, very powerful men. It's a story about how you get power, how you keep it, and what happens when one person's ambition becomes everyone else's problem. Think of them as different types of performers on the world stage. Failed artist who became a terrifying orator, quiet spy, the man from the shadows reality TV star, master of media. First up, let's go back in time to Germany after World War I. The country was a mess. People were broke, humiliated, looking for someone to blame. And along comes this guy, Adolf Hitler. Before he was the Hitler, he was a struggling artist. I'm not kidding. He was rejected from art school twice. Imagine if they had just let him in. The world might have had a few more mediocre paintings of buildings and a lot fewer history documentaries with scary music. But his failure as an artist fueled a deep resentment. He felt destined for greatness, and the world couldn't see it yet. He found his true calling not with a paintbrush, but with a microphone in the beer halls of Munich. Hitler's superpower was his voice. He wasn't a debater, he was a conductor of rage. He'd start his speeches slowly, almost calmly, drawing the audience in. Then he'd build and build, voice rising, gestures frantic, until the entire room was in a frenzy. Now let's fast forward a few decades and fly over to Russia. Here we meet a completely different character, Vladimir Putin. If Hitler was all fire and fury, Putin is all ice and steel. His story begins not in a beer hall but in the shadowy corridors of the KGB. For years his job was to be invisible, to gather information, to analyze weaknesses, to operate without leaving a trace. This background is the key to understanding everything about him. He's not a showman who loves the roar of the crowd, he's a strategist who loves the silence of a perfectly executed plan. He sees the world as a chessboard, he is always thinking 5 moves ahead. Putin's rise to power was quiet and methodical. When the Soviet Union collapsed in 1991, Russia was in chaos. Putin saw an opportunity. And now we land in America, the land of the free and the home of reality television. And that's where we find our third leader, Donald Trump. His background isn't in politics or espionage, it's in New York real estate and, most importantly, television. For decades before he even thought about running for president, Trump was building a brand. He put his name on everything. Buildings. He put his name on everything. Steaks. He put his name on everything. Airlines. He put his name on everything. Board games. He was the ultimate symbol of 1980s excess and ambition. But his real breakthrough into the American living room was with his show, The Apprentice. Here he perfected his persona, the tough, no-nonsense boss who could solve any problem with a simple, direct command. You're fired. This was his training ground for the political stage. Trump's rise was all about media mastery. He understood something fundamental about the 21st century. If you can dominate the news cycle, you can dominate the conversation. He didn't need to buy ads, he was the ad. They were raucous, freewheeling performances. He would go on for hours, riffing on his opponents. When you put these three leaders side by side, it's like comparing 3 different master chefs trying to cook the same dish. Total power. They all want it, but their recipes are completely different. Think of their tools: a fiery torch, a chessboard, and a smartphone with a Twitter logo. Hitler's method was ideological zealotry. He created a belief system, Nazism, that was all-encompassing. It had a holy book, Mein Kampf, sacred symbols like the swastika, and a promise of salvation, the Thousand-Year Reich. Putin's approach is the polar opposite. His playbook was written in the KGB. It's all about control, not chaos. Where Hitler used frenzied rallies, Putin uses carefully managed television broadcasts and online disinformation campaigns. So what's the common thread? All three are masters of the US versus them narrative. For Hitler, it was the Aryan race against the Jews. The leadership of these men didn't just stay within the walls of their palaces. Hitler's impact was catastrophic and absolute. He turned Germany, a center of science and culture, into a totalitarian war machine. He systematically dismantled democratic institutions and demanded total obedience. The genocide of 6 million Jews, millions of others murdered in the Holocaust. Vladimir Putin's impact on Russia, consolidation and regression. After the chaotic 1990s, he delivered stability. He tamed the oligarchs. Political opponents were jailed, exiled, or worse. He annexed Crimea. He launched a full-scale invasion of Ukraine. Donald Trump's 4 years brought a different disruption. Domestically, deep political polarization. He appointed many conservative judges, passed major tax cuts, implemented hardline immigration policies. His attacks on the press, judiciary, and elections deepened divisions and eroded trust. All three left their nations more isolated and nationalistic. They taught people their nation was exceptional and besieged. Only a strong, uncompromising leader could protect them. Their legacies show how a leader's personality, fanatical, calculated, or performative, can redefine a country's identity both at home and abroad. So, after this wild ride through history, what's the takeaway? What does the story of these three men teach us about power, leadership, and ourselves? First, it teaches us that the strong man isn't a new phenomenon. He's a recurring character in the human story. He shows up when people are anxious, when they feel like they're losing control. The strong man steps onto the stage and says, "Don't worry, I've got this." Hitler, Putin, Trump. They offered certainty in uncertain times, and that is a powerful, seductive offer that we have to be wary of. Second, their stories are a masterclass in communication. They show us that how you say something is often more important than what you are saying. Hitler used the raw, emotional power of the spoken word. Putin uses the cold, pervasive power of state-controlled media and digital shadows. Trump used the loud, chaotic, and direct power of social media. Trump used reality television. Each one tailored their message to the technology and the mood of their time. This reminds us to always be critical consumers of information, to look past the performance and examine the substance. We need to ask, what is this person actually saying? What do they really want? And perhaps the most important lesson is that the best defense against the rise of a destructive strongman is a healthy society, an informed society, and an engaged society.